Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, April the 11th, the 94th day of the year. 264 days left in 2023, and welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom. Oh, man. Another mass shooting. Quote, good people remain silent. Good people remain silent is one of the biggest refrains from the era of the civil rights movement. Good people remained silent refers to those good people who stood on the sidelines or who stand on the sidelines while battles go on in the streets, in the churches, in the elected offices. People who I describe today as friends, but they're repeating that behavior all over again. Follow the crowd. Don't get out of line. Remain frozen rather than take a stance, rather than speak out. Instead, the good people sitting on the sidelines, whispering among themselves what they know to be right, what they know will make a difference, what they know to be the truth. And so, unfortunately, that beat goes on. So our G-list guest today is Chef Jen Lowry. She describes herself as a military spouse and mother of 3 beautiful children. Although she says, although I have my hands full at times, they are my constant motivation to keep on going. I've managed to build my experience in the culinary world for over 10 years, and all this had led me here today to serve you. She says, I'm a mompreneur. I haven't heard that word before, but that's great. I like that. A mompreneur, military spouse, woman-owned business. I have a passion for food, art, and making every creation special and unique. Sounds good to me. We look forward to hearing about it. Look forward to that conversation. This edition of Tuesdays with Thom, of course, is sponsored by our partners, the Best Girl consulting firm. Best Girl has been providing customized solutions to executive issues for over 34 years. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl creates the solution that fits your needs. So let's go immediately to the round table regulars and introduce Barbara Wallace-Edwards and Michael Walker. Good morning. We'll start with Barbara Wallace-Edwards. Barbara, how are you?
Good morning, Thom. I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you today?
I'm doing great. So tell me about your weekend. I know you got something you did.
I did. I had a good weekend, Thom. I started my weekend off on Friday. I was honored to be invited to attend an award ceremony for a friend of mine. He and his wife are dear friends, Lance Corporal Stephen Pegler. It was 55 years ago that 19-year-old Lance Corporal Pegler found himself in the enemy fire in the line of duty in Vietnam. And at the age of 75, he was recently notified from the U.S. Marine Corps that he earned several awards and decorations for his combat service in Vietnam. And on Friday, he received the Purple Heart along with several other awards. And it was a beautiful, beautiful ceremony attended by many friends, families, and local dignitaries. And we couldn't hold back the tears. I mean, it was just such a wonderful thing to be there and see it all. He, in addition to the Purple Heart, he received the Combat Action Ribbon, the Navy Unit Commendation, Marine Corps Good Conduct Medal, National Defense Service Medal, the Vietnam Service Medal, Republic of Vietnam Meritorious Unit Citation, and the Republic of Vietnam Campaign Medal, and the Rifle Marksman Badge.
Congratulations
to
that
congratulations
brother.
To him.
So, question.
Yes.
Why is it taking so long to get him his medals? What's the deal with that?
It's a wonderful story. He said that he was injured, severely injured, in the line of duty, and spent many almost a full year in the hospital. He was transported to Japan and was in the
Mm,
hospital there. And once they were able to bring him back to the States, he spent many months in the hospital in Memphis, in a facility there near Memphis. And when he finally came home, he said he was just so glad to be home to see his mom that he didn't even think about any awards or asking about anything. He came back here and received physical therapy and medical treatment at the VA center here in Birmingham. And once he was physically able to get up and start moving around again, he said he just wanted to go to school. So he went to Stillman, got his degree, finished school, came back and worked at the U.S. Postal Service for over 30 years, and then finally retired. And he said one day his mom mentioned to him, his mom was still living, thank God, and at the age of 91, she asked him, she said, you should have received some type of award for your service. And he, one of his visits to the VA center, he mentioned it to a young lady there, and she helped him look into the matter. And they found that he actually had been awarded the Purple Heart, but never received it. It was never
wow.
presented to him. So it was just something that his mom mentioned to him, and he said he was just determined that before his mother passed away, that he wanted to receive that, and they finally made it happen.
That's great.
Yes, it was a
Wonderful.
wonderful story.
Yeah. Lance Corporal, what division of the service is that?
He was in the Marines.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, good for him. Good for that brother. Congratulations, man. And if you're watching, and
Right.
I mean, that's a heck of a story.
Absolutely. He was on the news yesterday morning. I think he was supposed to be on the news at another station here today. So I'm not sure if they're watching now, but I know they will watch later on and be able to see this.
Okay, well, great. Well, let's get Michael on and see what he's got for us this morning. Michael, how are you, brother?
I'm doing well, TG. I hope you are this morning. Good morning, Barbara.
I am. That's a great story Barbara had. So what's happening with you, Michael?
Well, Thom, you guys remember the great song group, the singing group, the Temptations, the Tempting Temptations, and they had a song called The Ball of Confusion. That's what the world is today. Well,
Right.
that song is still pertinent today, some 60-something years later, however long it's been.
Right.
And I was just thinking about all the things that's happening. And, we're living where a lot of corporations are formatting a DEI department, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I've found it strange that some people have a problem with the word diversity, equity, and inclusion. There are some people that want to change it to inclusive excellence. And I wonder, is that because that makes another person feel better to say inclusive excellence rather than saying diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Well, it depends on what they mean by inclusive excellence. What do they call it? Inclusive excellence?
I don't understand inclusive excellence.
Not at all.
I don't know. And I remember that caused me to think back when I was in DC recently up there visiting our elected officials. And I think it was the Longworth building, but it was one of the buildings that the congressmen were in. And we were at the bottom floor, and they have an office of diversity, equity, and inclusion in one of the federal buildings there. And as I was walking past that, a colleague with me says, "Michael, do I need that?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "That DEI, we got an office of DEI. Why? Do I need that?" And I said, "Well,
if you don't know, then yes, you do.
If you got to ask, yeah.
Yes. That was the answer to his question right there.
Go ahead, Michael. Go ahead.
I
really want to cut you off, but it's like, I can answer that easily.
Yeah. So I started to think about that. And then that led me to something else. You guys would not know about this, but this just happened here in Atlanta at a middle school, nonetheless. The Louise Radloff Elementary School. And I know Louise. I served in Leadership Gwinnett with her. The school was named after her. But we just found out that last month, a student at the middle school called another student a racial slur and then hit her with a belt that was given to this student by another friend. And then they proceeded to mock a slave auction and auction her off into slavery at a middle school, nonetheless.
Wow.
So there's a lot of talk and push for some assault charges being brought forth to these students. But the fact that they were in middle school, that they thought this was something that they needed to do, that's why I say the world is a ball of confusion. And then you move to the shooting at Louisville yesterday with the 25-year-old. And from what I've understanding, it's all because he was going to get fired.
Wow.
Do you know how many times as an African-American in corporate America I've been fired? That's why I started my own business.
Wow.
But instead, he decides to deal with it by going to the bank and shooting people.
Yeah.
And I understand he sent a note to a friend right before this happened saying he felt suicidal.
Yes.
You know, why, if that's the case, just go ahead and commit suicide. You know, I would hate for anyone to do that as well, but why do you have to kill other people?
Other people that had nothing to do with it. Not to mention he had the presence of mind to live stream it all and put it on Facebook and the internet.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Again, a ball of confusion.
All of confusion.
And then the last, wait for it. The Dalai Lama had to apologize for telling a young boy to suck his tongue in the temple. Come on, Dalai Lama. You got to be better than that.
The Dalai Lama told him to suck the Dalai Lama's tongue?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Where he was greeting people and, kissing people and stuff. So he tells this young boy to kiss him on the cheek and then say, and suck my tongue. Barbara, you the facial expression you have is amazing.
Yeah, I mean that's unbelievable. Wow.
Yeah, it is. Ball of confusion is probably the best way to explain it. But I'll go back to this inclusive excellence for a minute and just say that, ever so often we go from something like DEI and then people want to change it to something else and so on and so forth. It's kind of anything to avoid the actual issue of what needs to be done and what we're dealing with in the world today, especially as it comes to ethnicity and so on and so forth. So that's interesting. And I think a ball of confusion is a good way to explain it.
Yes.
Yeah. When you talk about that, I remember this saying.
Perfect.
Yes. But, Thom, back to what you're saying about changing the name of DEI to inclusive exclusion or inclusion, whatever it is. No, inclusive excellence.
Inclusive excellence.
It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't even
No, it does.
I have difficulty wrapping my mind around this.
Right.
But, the saying that if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck, right?
That's right.
So why call it anything else other than a duck?
Right.
And it's obvious there needs to be a higher sense of diversity, equity, and inclusion, but
absolutely.
I was somewhat taken aback by this name being referred to as inclusive excellence.
I can't even understand who does that include? What does that mean?
That's the question.
Who does it include? What?
It's like they're trying to change the narrative of the whole thing, the whole diversity, equity, and inclusion.
When I go to Auburn and I speak to those students, and in the honors class that I speak to, there's never been a student of color. They're always all white. But those kids don't have any problem with what I have to say. As a matter of fact, they're very interested in what I have to say when I talk about my history at the university and my history in America. Right. They're very interested and very engaging I think if I got up there and started talking about inclusive excellence, they'd look at me like, what the hell is he talking about?
Exactly.
You know, he's just an old
Right.
guy and lost it, you know?
Right.
So I don't know. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to avoid? Why? Why? I don't know.
And, you know,
It's
I
interesting.
experienced, Tom, when I went back to Auburn last year and spoke to Dr. Abrams, you know, the kids, the majority of the kids in that classroom were white, and they were so interested in what I had to say and what my experience was like at Auburn and why they just couldn't even imagine what it was like back then, and they wanted to hear every little detail about, you know, what was it like, you know, going to classes, and, you know, would the people speak to you, were they, you know, were they trying to include you in class meetings or projects, and they wanted to know every little detail, and that was so important to them. And the fact that the older generation don't want to hear it and don't want to talk about it, what are they trying to accomplish by doing that? It's like they're fearful of themselves looking bad or their generation looking bad. It's life. It happened, and it's still happening today.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Well, I think, I don't know. I wasn't there when they penned the phrase inclusive excellence. I think it's an attempt to say we're going to include everybody. Uh, and I'm just, you know, thinking
They're
out
already
loud.
included, Michael.
I get that. I understand that. But in the person's mind that came up with the phrase inclusive excellence, I think they're trying to say we're not going to differentiate between anybody. We're just going to move forward and include everyone. And that's also a way of saying we're not going to think about what happened in the past and the things that are going on. We're just here. We're going to move forward and everybody's included. You know, that's all I can come up with, you know. And the same about my colleague, who's really a great guy. We have a good relationship. But for him to look at that and feel like he had to point that out, because I didn't even see it, to be honest with you.
Right.
You know, I was walking by, I didn't pay any attention to it. He paid attention to it and said, do I need that?
Wow.
And, you know, I was like, really? You know,
Yeah,
but
the obvious answer is yes.
yeah. And, but, you know, maybe you don't need it, but there's somebody else that does.
Right. And again, the fact that he had to ask that question, I think he does need it. Maybe not to the same extent as some other people, but still, everyone needs to be exposed to that and learn about it.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, I was just really heartbroken to hear about this taking place in an elementary school. So you got to think about the two kids that were involved in that, the one that uttered the racial slur, and then the one that gave this other person a belt to hit this student with, and then to proceed to auction, and it was a she, her off as if she were a slave.
Where were the adults, Michael? That's the thing. Where were these kids? Were they isolated and there were no adults around when this was taking place?
I'm not really sure. They haven't come out with the details, but there's an investigation going on about it, like I said, and it's really gotten the people up and roar that it's happening at an elementary school right here in Gwinnett County.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you, where it was.
Right here in Gwinnett County in Duluth, Georgia, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
That's sad.
Yeah. So you got to think about their parents, though,
Yes.
for this to take place.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're in elementary school, what do they really know about slavery? Because, you know, it's critical race theory to talk about it. So we're not teaching them.
You can't talk about it.
Right.
So you can't blame the school about it.
Right.
It has to go back to the home.
To the home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, I just thought about it. I'm like, well, how do they learn about it if they're in elementary school?
Right.
You know? Okay.
Right.
Yeah, they're not born with hate in their heart. They learn that. That's a learned behavior.
You learn that over time, but also that also shows that there is a need for understanding of who we are, where we came from. And if you want to avoid that and don't want to talk about it, then it's just going to repeat.
Absolutely.
Well, Thom, you sounded like you were about to say there's a need for diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I thought you.
Oh, I think so, definitely. I mean, I'm not going to disagree with that. To me, I'd love to sit down and have whoever came up with inclusive excellence explain to me what the hell that means
Right.
and how it's going to solve any issues out here in our society. I think that again, when I talk to the young people, there don't seem to be any issues. I mean, everybody's got stuff. You know, I've got stuff that it's stuff that I have learned over the years and that I react to in certain ways. We've all got stuff, but how do we overcome our stuff? We overcome our stuff by learning. Um, and I think learning further who we are as people. So it's interesting when people don't want to talk about it, don't want to put it on the table, and try to keep it away from people who really don't have any issues.
Right.
You know, these young people don't have any issues, man. A lot of them.
Yeah.
That's
You're
true.
just creating an issue by, well, we ain't gonna talk. We're gonna talk. We're gonna call it inclusive excellence. Well, what the hell is that?
Right.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but I don't know what that is.
And no one else does. And I think that's intentional. They don't want you to know what it is, so they don't have to do anything.
Well, more than likely, they're not going to do anything anyway, regardless of what you call it.
That's
So,
true.
so
maybe
they
it
may
makes
as
them
well
feel
call
better
it what
about
it
it.
is.
Right. Maybe they feel better about it when they call it something different and don't do anything.
That's how I felt. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
anyway, interesting.
That's how I see it today. As you say, Tom, the world is still a ball of confusion.
All of confusion.
All the confusion.
That's
Yep,
how we'll describe it.
I agree. Anything else? Let's move to a lighter subject here. Auburn had its A-Day game. Did either one of you guys have any follow-up on it?
I'll just say that that the format, you couldn't really glean anything from it other than the fact I think that the offensive line play has improved. I think that we have a room full of stud running backs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
I will tell you that. And I think that you'll probably see a situation where we will not wear out one running back and will take advantage of the skill sets of all the running backs there, unlike a former coach would do.
I want to ask, so does inclusive excellence count on the football team?
It never has before.
Thank you.
Not since the 70s. It hasn't before.
I want to let me ask this because this made sense to me. And I don't know if I got it exactly right, but I saw where the Auburn coach, Coach Freeze, said he didn't like the format of the spring game and that there should actually be a game.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that Auburn could play a game against, and I don't know, I may have this wrong, Tuskegee or Alabama A&M or Alabama State or whatever. And that makes sense to me.
It does.
It makes more sense than, somebody asked me, they said, are you going to the A-Day game? I said, man, the last A-Day game I went to, I played in. And that was a long time ago. And what was the reason? Because it was just a practice.
Right.
It's a fancy practice.
Yes.
Well, it ain't even fancy. So I like his idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're trying not to get anybody hurt. I certainly understand that, and that makes a lot of sense. But I can see where he was like, why are we doing this? And we're going to go up here and the score is 24-0 to start out.
Right.
And
yeah,
so.
That's the thing about it. And, the A-Day game is nothing more than a glorified scrimmage is all it is.
That's all.
And, but what really bothers me are these people that are writing these articles. They, for some reason, all they want to do is dog the quarterback room right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading an article and they were saying, well, there's nothing you could figure out about Robbie Ashford. He went 1 for 3 for 39 yards. We threw the ball 3 times.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So you're going to fault him because he was only allowed to throw the ball 3 times. And he completed 1, which was a 39-yarder right down the middle between 2 people, and it was a bullet. But you didn't talk about that.
Right.
You want to talk about how poor that performance was. And he ran for 38 yards and a touchdown on like 6 carries or so.
But he was throwing the ball in torrential rain, so they didn't mention that part either.
Oh, no. Okay. That doesn't matter. Come on. So what? That doesn't matter. But here's the thing about it. 2 of the passes he threw, the people dropped it. Okay.
Yes.
So this is not like me playing in the front yard where I throw the ball up and run catch it myself. You're throwing it to somebody else.
Right.
So they kill me with this doom and gloom and just trying to dog these guys out. But I will say that the offensive line, I think, is a major overhaul, and it's going to be a lot better. It was hard to say what the defense is going to be because, like you said, Thom, you start out with the defense with 24 points. And I guess that was putting the pressure on the offense to score and come from behind. So I can understand some of that, but you can't really tell what you have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess, and I don't know this, but I guess, so can they not play a game? Is that against the rules or something?
It's the NCAA rules that they don't allow this. And so I think that's what Coach Hugh Freeze is trying to build up some momentum and get people in. And I saw where the coach of Troy said, heck, I'll drive to Auburn or Tuscaloosa in a minute and play, and I think it's going to get a lot more people involved and say, hey, let's get on this train and do this. And it makes sense to me. Hey, you remember where I remember Coach Chapman, my high school basketball coach, used to have us play Marathon Oil because they had a traveling men's basketball team. So before the season, we line up and play against them. And these people were grown men at the time. They were 24, 25, and it was a real game. Okay. So I can see where Hugh Freeze is coming from on that,
I can as well. That sounds good. It's a lot clearer than inclusive excellence, I can tell you that. Let me say that I'd like to give a shout out and a remembrance of Coach Herb Waldrop, who was one of our coaches. He was one of our trainers, and he passed, I understand, the last week or so. And so I'd like to just put out a remembrance for him. He was a great guy and took care of us on the athletic staff. Hub, we'll miss you, buddy. Okay, anything else? Well, let's move on to the G list.
Go ahead.
What?
Now, I was just going to say good morning to all of our viewers. We have some new viewers on this morning, so just say good morning to everyone.
So let's move on to our Hollywood has the A list. Oh, let's see. We got Sean. Sean's got a minute. Sean, where are you out there?
My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute. Good morning to everyone joining in with us this morning. It's windy and raining on my piece of the world, and I feel like it's something my fellow Floridians and I needed. It seems as if people tend to be much kinder to each other on the days that bring rain. Speaking of kindness, on this day in 1866, the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals is founded in New York City by philanthropist and diplomat Henry Bergh. Bergh was determined to secure a charter not only to incorporate the ASPCA, but to exercise the power to arrest and prosecute violators of the law. Bergh pleaded on behalf of these mute servants of mankind at a meeting at Clinton Hall. He argued that protecting animals was an issue that crossed party lines and class boundaries. This is a matter purely of conscience. It has no perplexing side issues, he said. It is a moral question in all its aspects. The speech prompted a number of dignitaries to sign his Declaration of the Rights of Animals. As the pioneer and innovator of the humane movement, the ASPCA quickly became the model for more than 25 other humane organizations in the United States and Canada. And by the time Berg died in 1888, 37 of the 38 states in the Union had passed anti-cruelty laws. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, let's see where we are now. So Hollywood's got the A list, and here on Tuesdays with Thom, we have the G list. Our G list guest today is Chef Jen Lowry. Chef Jen Lowry says, I am a military spouse, mother of 3 beautiful children. She says, although I have my hands full at times, they are my constant motivation to keep going. I have managed to build my experience in the culinary world for over 10 years, and all of this has led me here today to serve you. Thankfully, she says, my husband, who is an active duty Marine, and my family have joined me to achieve my dream. I love this. She says, I am a mompreneur. I never heard of that term before, but I get it. She's a military spouse, woman-owned business. She has a passion for food art and making every creation special and unique. She's located in Pensacola, Florida, but willing to travel as far as New Orleans, Tallahassee, Montgomery, Mobile, and surrounding areas for a small travel fee. Just private message her and she'll be glad to assist you. So let's get her on here. Jen Lowry, how are you this morning?
Hello, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Oh, we're doing fine. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And we understand that you have a 1-year-old there with you. And so
Yeah.
Is it a girl or a boy?
A girl.
So if she decides to join us, then we'll just let her join in and as part of the conversation. How about that?
She's pretty much ready too. She's eating waffles right now.
Okay.
She's done eating, then she'll probably come join. But
Okay. Well, let's start out and just tell me how you got interested in the whole cooking business.
So I was actually in the medical field when I was about 17 years old. I started off as a medical assistant, and at the same time, I was a single parent at the time with my daughter, and she is now going to turn 11. But so I was a single parent. I was working 2 jobs. So graduated high school, I think I was like 16, and went straight to college at 17.
Wow.
I had my baby with me, and my mom was helping me at the time too. Watch her while I went to classes, and then I went to jobs. So I started off in a taco truck. So I was like making tacos, doing prep work, doing cashier work, cleaning the tables, and all the way up until like 3 a.m. And then finally graduated college, and I started my first job, like my internship, actually at the Naval Hospital in Whidbey Island, Washington. So I did my internship there, and I just did labor and delivery. I did like lab work, like all kinds of stuff. And then later on, I started getting into dermatology work and stitching up people and stuff like that. But after COVID, this was in full panic mode, where people were passing away, and it was very alarming. Everyone was indoors, and I was in a medical office, and one day my children get COVID, and I tell them I need time off for like 2 weeks or something to make sure they're okay, right? To be there for my kids. They said, no, you can't take time off, or you need to find somebody else to replace you. And I said, you know what? I quit. I am going to be with my kids. Like, you are not going to keep me here, And I think I was pregnant too with my second one, which was Olivia now. But yeah, and I said, you guys are not going to keep me here. I'm going to be there for my children, you know? So, and I said, you know what? Like, I've been working in all these restaurants and all this fast food work. I know I love that. I would cook my family like 5-course meals, you know? Like, I was really into it, you know? I educated myself too, like, watched all kinds of shows and, you know, and like, you know, every paycheck I got like a new seasoning, tried it out, you know, new recipe, tried it out, different cultures, like it didn't matter. Like I was making it. And then Hurricane Sally hit,
Yeah.
and I live in a neighborhood where it's a lot of like retired people here, so retired military and all that stuff. And my neighbor next door to me, actually, she's not there anymore, but her husband used to be in the Blue Angels, like in the Jets and stuff, and like everyone else's houses was flooded. So we went to go check on them, like knee deep in the water, just looking for people to make sure they were okay. And we ended up getting like my in between my husband, my neighbor here that gave us a generator, and like my brother, we all collected all their food and cooked it for 2 weeks straight, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for everyone. And I had like this Blackstone griddle where I did everything. So that was, I think, one of the highlights that I had when that first triggered me to start the business. So I told my husband in March of last year, because I've only been in 1 year in business.
Wow. Wow.
So I told him last year, I said, you know what, I think I'm going to start the business. Like, it's scary, but, you know, I just got to do it. You know, like something's telling me I got to do this. And, you know, and I'm happy to do something like this, and I can be here for my kids, you know. And he said, okay, you know, just don't, you know, just like he believed in me. I know he did. He was just like scared too, you know. I know he has like so much support for me. So I thought that was awesome. And you know, so I started the business. I created my logo. I did my website. I did everything, like all of it. Like applied for
Wow.
it. Like I did everything myself. Started up all my social media stuff. I do most of all of my photography when I first started, and now I hire photographers to help me
Yeah,
for like
good.
bigger events. I do all my video work, like just it's crazy, and all that while still being a mom, still being a wife, like still participating, you know, at the Post, like the Legion, all kinds of stuff. And yeah, but so far it's been a blessing, and it's skyrocketed very nicely, and I'm just like so humbled and so grateful, you know, that it's been this good. So
Well, we
yeah.
got some photos of some of your food, your displays, and then we'll come back and ask some questions. Sean, can we put a few of those photos up, please? Well, I think that's you and you.
Oh yeah,
Can
it's
you
a watermelon
tell us
cake.
what that is?
A geode watermelon cake,
Okay.
geometrical fruit platter. That was me at my first event at Sneaky Tiki. Oh, that's a salmon rose. That's the one that got the most views.
Okay.
Skirt steak with chimichurri. That's me at the ABWA in Fort Walton. I was doing a board for them. Shrimp pasta.
Well, that looks
Tomahawk.
good.
Me and my husband doing our first event, and that was for Mission Wonder Woman Foundation. And yeah, oh, that's how I started. I started something called Love Through Food. I want to talk about that too, but
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
the ceviche cups and stuff. That's the finished product for the Mission Wonder Woman. Yep,
You
all
do
that.
all this yourself?
Yeah, my husband was with me that day, so he helped
Yeah,
me.
wow.
Yeah, like unload and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting. So, you go ahead and talk about it a little bit, and I'll get Barbara and Michael to ask you some questions here.
Yeah. So I think I was still pregnant with my daughter, Olivia. I was a stay-at-home mom for a while, and it was like kind of driving me crazy because I'm like I like working, and I told my husband, I was like, you know what, let me just start something real quick, and so I did a pay it forward meal thing where I sold like birria tacos and aguas frescas, desserts, and I had like hundreds of people show up to my garage and like car by car by car by car picking up their orders, and they would pay for the
Wow.
next family and they would pay for the next one, and so on and so forth. And there was a point where I did have to charge like $20-$30 for like a family pack or something like that, like just to keep it going. But I think the only reason I stopped was because, one, I was gonna have a baby, and then two, I started seeing my clients go to other restaurants that were already established, picking up on the trend of birria tacos, and I started putting myself down, and I was like, oh my gosh, like and then that's where my whole mentality changed after that. Like, there's room for everyone to grow, there's room for everyone to succeed. Like, I shouldn't feel like this, like I was proud of what I did and it was really fun, so I shouldn't feel that way, so yeah.
Good deal. Okay. Who's got a question?
I'll start. Good morning, Jan. How are you?
Good.
Thank you for joining us. And what you built so far in just 1 year is just absolutely amazing. Those
It
photos are
is.
just so impressive. And I just want to know, when are we invited to dinner? I mean, it looks fabulous. Fabulous.
Yeah, anytime. Actually, I did a taste testing dinner one time where I invited neighbors and friends and whoever wanted to, get to know me before they hired me. And I invited them to my house and set up a table. And I did like, I think 6 or 7 courses for them, like to just try,
Wow.
So
That
you
is
guys are definitely invited.
that's impressive. I love it. I
Sounds
love it.
good.
Where did you develop your love for cooking? Was it just something that you've always loved to do, or I know how you got into the business, but just cooking in general?
Yeah. So when I was about maybe 8 years old, I was in Mexico with my grandma. And the first thing I cooked was huevos rancheros. So, like, I fried up tortillas and I did the sauce and I did the eggs, but mostly the eggs. That's all I remember. But I know I
Right.
did huevos rancheros. And after that, I just kind of started being really curious at the kitchen. Then when I got older and I was a single parent too, we were so I'm from Compton, California, and we didn't really have, like, my siblings and I have like a very good childhood. We were always in poverty and, like, trying to stretch meals and, things like that.
Right.
And then when I was like 15 or so, like, I already had my own daughter, I was trying to, get out of a situation, and my mom got divorced, so she got really depressed and didn't want to cook for us anymore. So I was left in charge of taking care of my older brother, my little brother, my sister, myself, and then my daughter. So I was just cooking for us all for I don't know how many years, but I've always been like the mom figure for everyone. And that's when I started working too and everything. When I started buying the spices, started trying the recipes, it was to feed them.
Wow.
So, and I think that really, it means something to me. Like, cooking means a lot to me. Um, Making people happy makes me happy, like, and it's all through food. So when I named that business Love Through Food, it was
Yes.
literally love through food. Like, I really
Wow.
wanted to do something good out of it. And I don't know, like, it kind of got me away from other things, like being in gangs and stuff, like, it was
Right.
awful at the time. It still is, actually, but like, but I'm not in that situation anymore. So now I can help others. But yeah, it was very difficult. But I don't know. It was a good escape. Cooking was a really good escape, and I was focused to become like those TV stars and all this stuff. Like that Food Network and Create TV and all these people. And when I started the business, the funny thing is I got a little starstruck because WSRE/PBS here in Pensacola had hired me for an event for Cinco de Mayo.
Wow.
And ever since then, they've been hiring me.
Oh,
I
good.
love it.
So, and I'm just like, always like, oh my gosh, like, I used to watch Create TV. I used to do all this, see all these things. And I'm just like, man. And the funny one is, like, Bob Ross, the painter, he would do like paintings and do like positive thinking with it, and everything.
Uh-huh.
That's how I feel with food. Like, we're like, and this will go over here, and this piece is gonna go over there. Like,
Right.
it all had a meaning.
That's
That's
great.
great.
Yeah.
There really is. It's a
Yes.
wonderful story.
Mhm.
Michael?
Yes. Well, good morning, Jennifer. Thanks for being here with us. Like Thom, I feel like you should trademark mompreneur. You may want to look into trademarking that, because I think that may bring you some dollars down the future if you trademark that.
Oh, I think that name actually already existed. The first time I heard it was from a photographer, Lakeisha Davis, and her husband, Hammer Davis. And we were sitting down for a meeting one time, and she mentioned the word mompreneur. And I was like, wow, I really like that, because that's me. Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe not. I want to ask you, I'm kind of into the history. And first of all, I want to say that congratulations in finding your niche, because in some of those photos, I could see the expression on your face. You were just all in your element when you were doing that, and that's good, because that brings you happiness, and therefore you do a great job, and I could see the expression in your face. But, recently we have charcuterie boards. And where did that come from? Because it's like just a big hodgepodge of food, and people just lay out a charcuterie board, and that became all the rage. And I remember several years ago, maybe decades ago, the words hors d'oeuvres came out. And when that first came out, people would call them hors d'oeuvres and horse d'oeuvres and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And I noticed you have that listed here. So will you speak on those two for a minute?
Yeah. So you know how when I started the birria tacos thing, because I saw it in California. California is a big, huge spot for food, and different kinds of foods. So that was a big trend, and I picked that up here. And then charcuterie is the same thing. It's a whole trend of food, and if you just kind of pick up on these little trends and you do it either the same or better, or put your own element into it, you are gonna like succeed off of that. Um, but I actually don't like doing the charcuterie boards. And it's so funny because that's like my number one requested thing. And I'm just like, well, I guess I can't help that I'm so good at it. Like,
Right.
but I don't know. But my thing is like, the only reason I don't like it is because I feel like it's very wasteful. A lot of the boards don't get eaten all the way, and I hate throwing away food. So that's something I've been applying to my grocery list whenever I do grocery lists. So if someone tells me I have a party of 70, I'm only going to make for like 40, 50 probably, as far as the grazing board goes, because there's still going to be all this other food like the hors d'oeuvres and things like that.
Right.
Because I don't know, I just feel very guilty throwing away food and being wasteful like that, because others could,
Yeah,
like others are
I
struggling
agree.
to eat. I know that because I struggle to eat. There was a
Right.
time where I was pregnant and all we had was rice and beans, and I was the only one eating. My brother wasn't eating, my sister wasn't eating, my
Wow.
mom wasn't eating. It was just me because I was pregnant.
Oh,
And,
no.
so it hits me hard to see food waste like that. And, and just seeing like homeless and like children that need food. And it just, I don't know, it costs to me too much to not be wasteful like that. So I try to condense it down as much as I can, and still also making it look presentable so it still looks appetizing so people would want to come back. And
Right.
yeah, so that's my thing on it. So
Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
I noticed sushi displays and sushi cakes. I eat sushi. A lot of people don't eat sushi, and I think it just depends on your background and stuff like that. What's a sushi cake?
So a sushi cake, there's two different kinds that I make. There's either one where it's like a tiered tower, right? I make a tower out of like aluminum, or there's already some that are made, and you just line up rolls all around it until it forms like a cake. Another one that I do is I get a mold and I stuff it with sushi rice, and inside it's like your layer of avocado, your salmon, the furikake, like all that stuff. And so when I flip it over, it's like a bundt cake now, right? And so I decorate it with like a salmon rose and cucumber cuttings and, you know, shavings. And yeah, so that's the sushi cake. Yeah, I try to get a little creative with them because, you know, trying to stand out here and, you know, be my own person, I guess. Yeah.
Yes.
So do you, and you say that you travel as far as New Orleans, Tallahassee, Montgomery, Mobile, and surrounding areas. Do you
Yeah.
ship stuff to people as well?
Right now I don't ship to anyone now.
Okay.
I need to figure out the logistics of all that. But I've had people contact me from, I don't know how I do it, honestly, because I have people contact me from like Las Vegas, from Oklahoma,
Wow.
from Orlando, and I'm just like, how do I get these people to see me? You know, like that's weird. Like I don't even know how I did that.
So when they contact you from Las Vegas, what are they contacting you? Are they trying to get you to send them food or what?
No, they want me to do private chef services and like do like
Oh,
the hors d'oeuvres display and like grazes and stuff. And I'm just
okay.
like, no, I'm in Florida right now. Like, and I've actually had one person from Orlando said, I will pay for travel, I will pay for the hotel. Like I need you
Wow.
here for my party, you know.
Wow. That's great,
It's
Jen.
a certain clientele, I guess, that can do that. But
Right.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's been pretty crazy.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So
And
being a mompreneur has its challenges, huh?
It does. And that's something that a big reason why I started YouTube, because it's like a glimpse of my life. You know, I can't record everything, but you see my daughter come with me to the seafood market and to the farm, and she gets free cookies and she gets, you know, like a banana or you know, stuff like that, you know?
right.
So like it's tough. Like I try to, you know, fast forward videos and really show people like how much goes into it, and people don't really understand that, I think. And that's another thing too that I've been learning as, you know, I started the business, is that I can't take a job that's not worth me leaving my family, you know, and like or sacrificing time, you know, away from them. So I try to explain to people like, this is my price for a reason, because I'm the only worker.
Right.
And I have to get all these, you know, groceries and run around everywhere. And, you know, it takes a lot of time to prep and takes a lot of time to be there and, you know, displaying everything as beautifully as I can. And, you know, so it's a lot of energy. So, you know, and some people understand that, but some don't, and it's okay. So sometimes I gotta say no, like no, it's not worth it, you know. So
Right.
If people want to contact you, your business, how do they contact you?
so I actually don't have a lot of people that call me from my family side anymore. Um,
Okay.
so I use my personal phone as my business phone.
Okay.
So everyone literally has my phone number.
Okay.
And that is 760-637-0541. And I've had people also contact me through Instagram DMs, Facebook DMs. I'm working on my website right now, but they can also go through the website. And yeah, that's how people reach out to me.
Okay.
Also through email, Conchitas, Conchitas, catering, LLC at gmail.com. So that's another one too.
Okay. And we're scrolling it across the bottom of the screen. So
Okay, awesome.
all of your information. Barbara, Michael, you got any more questions?
I just want to say thank you so much for joining us, Jen. You were absolutely wonderful, and your business is so impressive, and we're impressed with you and all that you're doing. I know you have some wonderful events coming up. Good luck on all of those, and thank you for being here today.
Yes, thank you. I'm really grateful that you guys reached out to me and had me on here today. So thank you to each and every one of you for your
Well,
time and everything.
I think you're establishing a great reputation. My wife's in ABWA, so I assume she was there when you
Yes.
did the presentation to them. So Good deal. Good
Jennifer, I
deal.
want to say congratulations and thank you for being on and sharing this with us. But the last question I have, tell me about your name, Conchitas. Tell me about that.
Yes, so Conchitas is actually a Mexican stew, kind of like fideo, but the pasta is a pasta shell, like a conch shell. And I named it because it's my kids' favorite food. It's their favorite meal. So I called it Conchitas.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah,
All right. Anything else? Thank you so much, Jennifer. We
thank you.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right. My closing commentary for today, or as I see it, San Antonio Spurs coach Greg Popovich sounded off this past weekend on the Tennessee Three. Pop's never been afraid to express his political opinion. Pop said, "We got two young black guys in Tennessee who just got railroaded by a bunch of people that I would bet deep down in their soul want to go back to Jim Crow. And what they just did is a good start. It's beyond comprehension. And what were they guilty of? They actually protested. They were called insurrectionists. If they are insurrectionists, then what were the people on January 6th? We know that one of the guys has been reinstated and the other ones may be reinstated this week. We can't keep going backwards, folks. And that's how I see it on this April 11th in the year 2023. This is our show for today. We want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. We want to thank the G-list guest. She was the mompreneur who is absolutely wonderful. Thank Barbara, Sean, and Joyce. Hold on just a second here. Yeah, and remember and thank Jen Lowry. And that's it for this Tuesday, April the 11th in the year 2023. Remember to enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.